Hello and welcome. This bow belonged to my best friend and is supposed to be on a wreath on her front door for Christmas. Now, you can see by the way she did it, she just kind of layered it, back and forth on top of each other. And there's so many things wrong with this bow. And, I love her dearly. She has exquisite taste in clothing and accessories and house and everything. But when it comes to crafting, she just doesn't have that quite there. So you can see by this ribbon, it's hugely wide, way wider than you would ever use on just about anything. And the thing about that is, it's a good quality ribbon. It's a like a burlap, and it's got the printed of the chevron on the front. It's a great quality ribbon, but it's just too wide. Welcome to Ivycreates. This is Deanna Carroll, and we're going to try to fix this for her. So, anyways, I'm going to end up cutting it in half because, for one thing, when you get a ribbon this wide, it's usually very short, like 10 feet or so. And really, to make a decent bow, you want about 15 feet or about 3 yards or better. So, I'm just showing you there are many ways you could do, and in addition to what she did at the beginning, her bow, her loops were not long enough, and therefore that also created a problem, and it got so bunched up. And she used that zip tie, which I'm not a huge fan of, but she used a zip tie to hold it all together. And you just can't pull as well as you can, I think, for a wire. So I'm just kind of showing you an example of how long of a loop you would have to make on that ribbon. It's extremely long to get it to pull out right. And when you're making a bow, you want to be able to really manhandle it and move it around to where you want it to be. We don't do delicate bows. We have to really do a lot of work to keep it going. And this is just an example of 4 loops, and that would have been just about all I could get out of the ribbon as it currently is. Now, by cutting it in half, I get shorter loops, and I can get more length out of it. So this is just an example here of putting a loop first and then doing just two more like little loops in the bow. It's a different type of bow. And I'm just doing this as an example because it's just really, really hard to work with that wide ribbon, and it's not wired. That's another thing. If you're going to be a beginner bow maker, always use wired ribbon. That way you can move it how you want to move it and place it where you want to place it. This is a good quality ribbon, but it's just not wired. And so when you have a wired ribbon, you can just, it'll stay wherever you want it to stay. So I tried many different types of bows on this. I even considered doing like a really messy bow, which would have been huge probably. And I was just, in the end, it's just, I got to cut the ribbon. I don't want to, but I got to. So now I just cut it in half, cut it straight up. A lot of ribbons you can actually tear once you start cutting and make a little seam there. You can tear it apart. But I didn't want to do that because, number one, this is burlap and it might shatter too much. And then, 2, I didn't feel like I could pull it. It was just not the kind of ribbon that to do that to. I would mess up the chevron and all that kind of stuff because it's just kind of printed sitting on the top of the ribbon. So after I got finished cutting, I just rolled up my pieces, and now I have twice the amount of ribbon I had before. And I was kind of toying around with doing different ribbons and stuff, and she always sends like extra things with whatever she sends. So she sent this really pretty gold tulle, and it was gold glitter tulle. And I thought it was really pretty. The wreath that this is all going on is it's a really nice wreath. However, if you touch it or move it or anything, the pieces break off because it looks like little snow or raindrops on it, and all the pieces break off. So what I wanted to do with the tool is, you can see that I'm just looping it around and I'm cutting several at a time, and I'm going to take 2 layers and just kind of bunch them together and put a wire around them, and then I'll pull that apart and add that to the wreath to make it look more full. It's similar in a way to using the netting, you know. It's similar to that, but it's tulle. And when I was little, you know, growing up in a flower shop, tulle was what we used for many things, and we had it in all our corsages and everything like that. And it was just, people don't use it enough because it has a lot of uses, but it fell out of fashion for a while, and now I think it's starting to come back a little bit, even though you can barely see what I'm doing because it's so sheer. It looks like I've got the emperor's new robe, and you can't even see it. But it is gold glitter, and it's very soft color, and it'll go great with everything else she sent me. She had these ornaments on this wreath, and the wreath, they were hung by wire, and they weren't glued in or anything. Very unstable if you have, like, you know, people going in and out of a door, and they could fall off pretty easily. So in the end, I didn't get to video the part where I put the ornaments on, but I have other, you know, statements about those ornaments because they were beautiful ornaments. So I glued them on, and I used groups rather than have it just around the tree equally. I mean, around the wreath equally. I put things like in groups of 3, or, you know, however, in different parts of the wreath. So now I'm just kind of testing to see, what do I want to put with it? What do I want to do? And I'm starting to make my loops for my bow. And what I'm going to do is a 2-part bow. I like to do mixes and matches of bows and ribbons and everything. So this is going to be a 2-part bow, and this will be the back part of the bow. So I'm just cutting the streamers for the bottom. And I use this little piece of tulle and chenille stem and twisted that around to hold this bow together, because I will be putting the little gold tulle into my wreath. And you can see I'm pulling this out, and I'm putting a little bit of force on it. So when you do put the wires around your ribbon, make sure it's good and tight, you know, so that you can manhandle it, physically do whatever you need to do. Now what I'm doing here is I'm folding the ribbon and then cutting from the back to the front. And that is to make a finished edge on my ribbon. And that's just an extra little thing you do to make the wreath look finished. So I'm doing that on both of my streamers that are, you know, the big streamers. I don't always do it on all of them, but the really noticeable ones you really do want to do. Yep, my best friend, she has a beautiful home. She always looks like a shiny new penny. She's always dressed, you know, to the nines, and jewelry and perfectly accessorized. And it just blows my mind that she can't do a little craft or something like that. It's just funny to me. It's amusing, but that's okay. At least I get to do it. So now I'm going to be adding my secondary part of the bow and adding this ribbon. So I'm going to move that aside. And I've got this ribbon, which I just happen to have on hand, and it is wired. So the good thing about the wire, if I want to use multiple ribbons, like you see the gold, it's like a net, the wire will assist in holding the gold together, and that is a good thing. So now I'm just going to make a bow with this, one layered on top of the other, starting with my main loop and then pulling back my other one. And these loops, of course, are a little shorter than the loops that are on the previous bow. And you just twist the ribbon until it faces you, until the top of it faces you, and then you make a loop. I think I went back here and made my loops just a little smaller so it wouldn't be quite so large. So I was kind of short on my gold, so I cut that off so I can have at least a little streamer. Anytime you're making a bow, make sure that you have enough on the end of the bow for a streamer. And you can really add as many ribbons as you want. They can be as different as you want to have them, but you know, you can do whatever you want to do. If it's your bow. So now I'm just sticking the chenille stem between my fingers in the middle of the bow, and I pull up the bow really tight with my hand and make sure it's all squunched in really good. And then when I twist it, I actually twist the bow side more than the wire side. I don't know why, it just makes the bows tighter. And then I can pull and jerk and do whatever it is I have to do to make the bow look right. I mean, literally, if you're pulling at loops and they're coming out, then the bow is way too loose. It should be, you know, really enough to be together. So now I'm going to take this bow that I just made, and I'm going to go over the middle of the other bow and tie it around the back side with the wires that I have. And you can see the little tool that I put in there is just enough to make it, you know, a little bit more fluffy and full. And I'm cutting the streamers for the back of the bow. I really prefer that those be on the bottom part of the bow. So I wanted to make sure I had enough for streamers. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a lot to teach on bows. If you have any particular questions, please leave me a comment below. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on any of our future videos. I'm glad that you've taken the time to watch this, and I hope you enjoyed my take on fixing a bow that was really bad. Hate to say it, sorry friend, but it was really, really bad. And now I'm going to make it something unique and pretty and put it on her front door. It's good that I do get to make wreaths and stuff for her front door, because I live in the woods. No one would ever see it, and it would just be a waste. So I like to put it in her yard, on her front door and everything, and decorate for her, because she lives in a subdivision. So now you can see I finished the bow and I put the middle bow in, and this is what the wreath looks like. And when I say these little things, they just fall off constantly. So I'm going to put our wreath down and try to put the bow on the wreath. And you can see I took the ornaments off before I started because I wanted to start from scratch. And it is a pretty wreath. I do like it. And you could use it for many different seasons even. But it's just hard to deal with. And you can see my bracelet was attached. And I finally got the bow on there. And stay tuned to the end because then you'll be able to see the pictures after I put all the ornaments on the wreath, how it looked and how pretty it was. And there's several pictures of it. It did come out nice. And you can see where I added some of the tulle pieces to the wreath all the way around, so that here it's partially done, but I did eventually put it all the way around, and it just added that extra little something to the wreath. When you're mixing ribbons and stuff, don't be afraid. If they're all in the same color family or so, bigger and smaller patterns, not the same size patterns and everything, as long as you're doing that, then you're going to mix fine. It's no big deal. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate you being here. And I hope you get to see some of our others. Now you can see that I've added all the ornaments and how pretty it is. I thought it came out really, really nice. Thank you. Hi, did you click that subscribe button and the notification bell? Well, if you don't hit that notification bell, you will miss out on our Thursday videos. So please go ahead, click it, and you'll be able to watch our videos that are coming up.